you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years,
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. And Pierre, a lot of action today around the NHL, both the trades and signings. And I want to start closer to where you are right now with the Montreal Canadiens, who lock up Jake Evans. So there he is. He is not going anywhere. He is staying with Montreal Canadiens 4 years with a $2.85 million cap hit. Your immediate reaction to that, Pierre?
Renaud Lavoie deserves credit because he was the first person to say the Canadiens were actually speaking with Jake Evans's people, number one. Number two, Jeff Gorton deserves a ton of credit for coming on the eye test and saying, we're keeping the door open. We would like to keep this player, and we're going to talk to Jake's representatives. So he deserves credit because he didn't negotiate in public, but he did tell the truth. And finally, I think the team and the player deserve a lot of credit. They know it's a great marriage.
Yep.
Jake's an important player for the team, and the team recognizes that. So they got him at about a number where, I had talked to you about.
Yes.
It's a very digestible number. It's a fair contract for the player. It's a very digestible contract for the team. I would have thought, and I said to you, I thought 5 years is where they would go. They went to 4. That's fine.
Yep.
2.85 on an AAV. That's, I thought it'd be closer to 3, but it's close enough.
Yep.
I think everybody's happy. And I'm so happy for Jake.
Yep.
So watch the game last night, Buffalo versus Montreal. Watch the game and watch how important Jake Evans is.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Pierre, big picture, too, just looking at the Canadiens, too, I like what this shows in terms of the environment and the culture around the team and where they are right now, that a player did want to stay. We've heard so many times that nobody wants to come to Montreal. Nobody wants to play there, and Kent and Jeff, I don't know how. I've thought they've done a tremendous job with this rebuild, but they've taken some criticism earlier this season. This shows to me that there's really something special going on there, that they're growing, and now they're at the point where players do want to stay.
That's such a smart statement. Really, Jimmy, well done. And so the truth is that there's a feeling in the room that they can trust one another. The coach clearly trusts the player. The player clearly trusts the coach and management. He also trusts his teammates. So they're about to head out on a road trip. And so that's a bad time to get a new contract because you usually have to take the guys on the off night out for dinner.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that.
So you're going to have to spend a little money on this road trip. But it's tremendous. I'm so happy for him. I'm thrilled for the team and for the fans.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're keeping Armia or not. I'm going to say probably not. Maybe they keep him for the rest of this year, but I think he walks at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But look at Heineman and Evans just as a 2/3 of a line.
Yeah.
And think about it long term and what that does. Everybody marveled at the identity line they used to have in New Jersey or with the Islanders, excuse me. And everybody marveled, at the crash line that they had in New Jersey back in the day. Yep. There were all these different lines that people, wow, that line's really important. Even though they don't play top 6 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what Jake Evans is going to be a part of. That's what Emil Heineman's going to be a part of. And you know who gets the most break on this? Owen Beck.
Yes.
He doesn't have to replace Evans.
Nope.
And I don't think he's ready to replace Jake Evans.
He can now, at his own pace, find his spot in the lineup. That's a great point.
That is correct, sir. That is correct.
And you look right now, Pierre, so you mentioned they're going out on the road, and I'll tell you, not a bad place to be for the Montreal Canadiens at the trade deadline, as far away from Montreal as you can possibly be. Just, to get away from the hoopla and all that, but they are in a Canadian city. But still, they're going out there. The deadline will come Friday. We remember Jeff Gorton, Pierre, when he was on. You referenced that already, but you remember what he said, that, look, these guys, they've earned this. They've earned the right for us to reward them. And I do think, Pierre, do I think they might move some guys out? Yeah, that could still happen. But I do think they'll get some complementary pieces to help this team along down the stretch.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
it may not happen, but based on the way you just presented that, Jimmy, I think you're right. I don't think you're wrong on that. One of the things I learned a long time ago is when you have a team that's pushing as hard as Montreal is, think about how far in the hole they were at the start. Think about what they did from U.S. Thanksgiving to January the 5th or 6th. They put themselves back in the race, and then they took another tumble just before the Four Nations. Now they're back at it, pretty amazing. So think about what that says about the character of the team. A lot of character.
Yeah.
Coachable team, proud team, guys that are willing to change. And so they've done that. Look at Slavkovsky, total player.
Yeah.
Look at Nick Suzuki.
That's where I want to get your take on him, Pierre.
So Nick Suzuki's at another level, Jimmy. He's at another level, man. And I keep telling you, there's a lot of Joe Sakic there. And I know people think that's blasphemous to say that in the province of Quebec, especially how good Joe was. You look at the body type, you look at the skating ability, and you look at the puck domination. I know they both shot different ways. I get that part. There's a lot of similarity there because Joe made every player that played with him better. Nick Suzuki makes every player that he plays with better.
Yeah,
he does. He does.
And you can see him maturing so much out there, Pierre, as a player and as a leader. I mean, what I love too, and I don't know, maybe I'm stupid to look into little things like this, but when he scored his goal last night, there's no big, huge celebration. There's not. He just smiles. He looks at the crowd. I think it looked like he maybe winked at a fan, and he went over. He had a casual celebration with his teammates and went on with his business. And to me, I love that. Act like you've been there before. It's little things like that that show maturity in a player to me.
That's what Sakic used to do.
That's what I was thinking of when you said that.
Same thing. So Cole Caulfield has 30 goals now. I don't hear anybody beating the drum. Get Cole Caulfield out of here. He can't play. I don't see anybody saying that.
Nope.
No, it's good. Lane Hudson, is he any good? I know people actually said he shouldn't even sign and leave BU last year. I remember hearing that on a radio show in Montreal. I heard somebody else say that he should be sent after 2 weeks in the regular season, sent to Laval to play.
Yep. Heard people say his plus minus was going to be atrocious. Remember that? What happened to that?
I remember. See, Jimmy, I try to remember them all.
Oh, you keep receipts. I know you do.
I do keep the receipts. There's just the only difference is I don't harangue people with the receipts.
No.
I look at what they're doing. How about Jaden Struble playing with Lane and how much better and comfortable he is?
Yep.
Arbor did some stuff last night. Jaden did some stuff last night that they're going to have to coach out of them. But that's okay. That's why Stefan Roby does there. Right. You got to coach some stuff out of guys too. How about Mike Matheson's goal last night?
Oh my gosh.
I can go. There's so many good things. I don't know if this team's making the playoffs or not, but I know long term these guys care and they're good.
What they're doing right now is going to help them so much.
Jimmy, they're easy to cheer for.
Yeah.
You want to cheer for them.
Oh yeah, I know.
They're easy to cheer for.
I've had some of my good friends from Boston here, diehard Bruins fans, grew up hating the Canadiens. They said, Jimmy, can you tell these guys to stop? I can't be cheering for the Canadiens because they're saying, I love the way they play. That's how I want the Bruins to play. I want them to play like that. Everything they're doing out there right now. Yeah, they're definitely easy to cheer for. Pierre, you bring up Matheson too. A couple times lately too. I love his grit. I love him getting in guys' faces.
Last night in front of the net. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you don't think
people forget this guy fought. People forget he fought what's it, Trouba in Montreal.
Right. Yeah.
He fought Jacob
Back
Trouba.
in November, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
so.
That's when Trouba hit Justin Barron before Justin Barron was traded out of town.
Yeah.
And that's when the Canes were not in good shape. They were in bad shape. And like Matt, to fight Jacob Trouba, you got to have some intestinal fortitude, man. That guy, he's a big beast.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Pierre, in other news around the league, the team that I cover a lot, the Boston Bruins were active. Interesting trade. Like I sent you the press release right when I got it from the Bruins. I said, hey, I'm hearing something's going down with Trent Frederic. And then minutes later, they send a press release out. But they didn't I don't know why. Maybe at that point it hadn't been worked out the way it eventually ended up. But here's how the trade ends up. There were 3 trades involved in this. It was the Boston Bruins trading Trent Frederic with 50% salary retained to New Jersey Devils in exchange for unsigned draft choice Peter Hauser. And then New Jersey trades Frederic with 50% retained to Edmonton in exchange for unsigned draft choice Shane LaChance, which we'll get to in a second. And then the third one was Boston trades Max Jones and Hauser to Edmonton in exchange for defenseman Max Wanner, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, St. Louis's second-round pick in 2025, owned by Edmonton, and Edmonton's own fourth-round selection in 2026. One key thing there, the Bruins now do have a second-round pick in this draft. They did not have one before. They haven't had one for a while. So they do fill some holes there in the draft. But I want to go right to the LeChance part of that deal and him ending up for the Devils there, Pierre, because you made some great points to me off the air. Want you to connect the dots there for our listeners and viewers.
Well, first of all, he's a Boston kid, went to Tabor Academy. Tommy Fitzgerald, the general manager of the New Jersey Devils, would have seen him play a ton. His father, Scott LeChance, who was a first-round pick of the New York Islanders, is a chief scout of North America for the New Jersey Devils. Mark Dennehy, who you had a chance to meet at the Four Nations,
Montreal,
he's the chief amateur scout for the entire Devils. Very familiar with Shane LeChance, even though Mark went to Boston College. He watches BU all the time. There's been a plethora of BU games in the last probably month where tons of New Jersey people have been seen. So they've been watching. And here's the other part of why they're watching. Mike Yegorov, who's the goalie for BU, he's a Devils draft pick. Jay Pandolfo, the head coach of the Boston University Terriers, is a former Devil and Stanley Cup winner there. So just connect the dots. So everybody's saying, "Oh, Shane LeChance, he was a sixth-round pick." Why would there's a sense of familiarity there? And Jersey knows they needed to get bigger with talent. Look at all their guys; they're little scooters. They're good, but they needed to get bigger.
Agreed.
Shane's going to be a really big presence for them in the slot on the power play with board play. There's a lot of good. I know some of the guys in Edmonton didn't want this to happen, just for what it's worth. But I also understand where Edmonton is right now. They're not thinking 4 years down the road. They're thinking right now. They want to win right now. So, you know, some of the guys that did all the legwork to try to get LeChance, and they did get him. I'm talking about in Edmonton. He's gone now.
Yeah. And by the way, Pierre, he was the game. He scored the game winner at the Friendship 4 that we were broadcasting live.
What a comeback against Notre Dame in that game. That was unbelievable.
3-win. Yeah, I remember that well. And then he also had a beauty goal in the first game of the Beanpot, if you remember, down low on the net.
Yeah, through his legs.
Yep, beautiful goal there. So things are starting to, percolate, Pierre. We're hearing there's still so many rumors flying around right now. But we won't really get to that. We're going to get to some things that have already happened. And one of them was that big trade involving the Chicago Blackhawks and the Florida Panthers over the weekend. I saw Seth Jones end up in Florida and Spencer Knight end up in Chicago. And on to talk with us about that right now is Scott Powers of The Athletic in Chicago. He's been covering the Blackhawks for a long time. We go way back. Scott was with ESPN Chicago when I was with ESPN Boston. I used to see him sometimes on the road. Scott, how you doing, my friend?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. Great to have you.
Good.
Great to have you. So just your initial thought to that trade, your initial reaction to that trade over the weekend.
Yeah, I think, a month ago, I would have told you that Seth Jones probably wouldn't be traded, maybe for years. And certainly things got accelerated there quickly, partly by Jones putting out in the public and teams obviously reaching out and showing interest in Jones. But it felt like a contract that was going to be challenging to move and certainly with the term left on it and how much he's making. And the question was, how much were the Blackhawks willing to eat on that contract and if they can get anything in return or, I was shocked that they were able to pull so much from the Panthers. I didn't think Jones had as much value. I mean, the Blackhawks did eat $2.5 million for the next 5 years, and it's not nothing, but they get a first round pick back and Spencer Knight, who they're hopeful will be, part of their goalies of the future. And then they get rid of Jones. It's significant where, it's not that Jones is a bad player, but he was kind of like carryover from the Bowman era and not necessarily someone that was in Kyle Davidson's plans, and considering how many defensemen they've drafted over the last 3 years and defensemen they envision be top 4 defensemen, and sort of Seth Jones was good at some point either going to have to kind of fall down the lineup or probably be moved. And so I think the fact they could do it this soon and the cap going up, the 2.5 probably is digestible. So all in all, I was surprised how quickly the trade came together, and two, probably what the Blackhawks got back for him.
Scott, what does this say about Drew Commesso and his future with the organization?
Yeah, it's probably not good. It's he certainly. I think there are a lot of goalies that there were a number of goalies who were like, what does this mean for me after the trade? You have, even for next year, it's there's a cloud over, I guess, a really complicated goalie situation became even more complicated where coming into the season, they had Peter Mrazek and
Soderblom.
And Soderblom, and they also signed Laurent Brossoit. I mean, Laurent Brossoit was supposed to replace Soderblom because how difficult the first year in the NHL last year was for Soderblom. So, you're supposed to have a 3-goalie mix potentially this year. Soderblom was probably be in Rockford. Brossoit suffers an injury beginning of the season, never gets healthy. He's yet to play. And for next year, they had Brossoit and Mrazek signed, and Soderblom was an RFA and probably saves at least his NHL career with the Blackhawks, and he's played really well. So you thought, Blackhawks re-sign him, and you'd have a complicated picture with those 3 defensemen, and the Blackhawks go out and trade for another defenseman. So, and then, certainly beyond them is Drew Commesso, who's in Rockford, who's had a kind of up and down year, but, still kind of a young defenseman and a young goalie who obviously has who was thought of highly coming through the program and BU and, second round pick and all those different things. So, certainly kind of, I'm not sure where he stands, but I think even now the Blackhawks have to decide what to do with Mrazek and Brossoit. I guess depends on Brossoit's health, but Brossoit and Mrazek and Soderblom and Knight are all signed for next season. Soderblom needs a new contract, but it's almost a given at this point as an RFA and how well he's played. So I would assume, they'll try to move Mrazek over the next week. I doubt it's possible. Mrazek's game's really fallen off over the last few months. Potentially the Blackhawks buy out him and Brossoit in the offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if they bought out TJ Brody too. So there's a lot of people the Blackhawks may be buying out, but I think Soderblom and Knight probably make the most sense. And then beyond them, if Commesso figures it out, like he's a little bit younger than both those guys. So and then even beyond them, they drafted Adam Gajan, who was Slovakia's goalie. Star a couple of years ago in the World Juniors, and he's a freshman at Duluth this season. So he's obviously a little bit further behind them, but a bunch of goalies in the pipeline they like. But I think Knight was someone that they've liked for a while, and they've liked his potential, and he's starting to figure it out. Obviously, he took a step back with with the OCD that he went to go get checked out and spent the year away, but kind of figuring out his game and. Still at a really young age, and I think a lot of attributes they like. So, this is the one time that I felt like Davidson's traded a lot for draft picks and probably not so much for prospects. And he went out and got a player that they think can be part of the future.
You look at, I remember last year, earlier in the season, Pierre and I were talking about the San Jose Sharks and their rebuild. And Pierre was identifying, spots where maybe they needed some veteran layers around the young kids, so to speak. You look at this lineup right now, there are some guys that Davidson brought in to do that, but do you think they need more? Do you think they need to change those layers, so to speak?
They could really use a star. They could really use a star at this point. I think they've done a good job. The Jason Dickinsons and the Nick Folinos and certainly Teravainen and Bertuzzi. I think it's up the group a bit and certainly giving them some leadership and bring guys in like Pat Maroon and Alec Martinez, guys who've been on cup-winning teams and have that experience. I think Martinez has been a really good mentor for Alex Vlasic this season. And Lucas Reichel is really, taken to Pat Maroon and Craig Smith. I think those guys have been in the room, have been really good, and there's a lot of positive attributes that have come from them. But I think it's elevating the the level of play and Taylor Hall. He had times where he looked good in just consistency, and they've brought in a lot of players who were once really good, but maybe toward the end of they're closer to the end of their careers and just haven't been able to match that level. And at this point, Connor Bedard probably needs to play with someone elite where Bedard's still kind of carrying some of these younger guys, or he could probably need someone who can carry him around a little bit. And obviously those players are really hard to come by, and it's a lot easier said than done. But with the amount of cap space the Blackhawks have, I think it's something crazy like $40 million going into the offseason and the draft capital they have. And I think they're open to trading their first pick this year, which, could be a top 3 pick. I think I'd be surprised if Kyle Davidson wasn't a little bit more aggressive in trying to obtain that sort of talent. And I think they're sort of a little bit further along in the rebuild too, now where they have a lot of young guys on the cusp and, even more coming. And, now you see in the NHL, you see Frank Nazar and Landon Slaggert and some of these players starting to make it. Then next year they have, I would assume Sam Renzel and Oliver Moore and Ryan Green and all these players likely turning pro, and Nick Lardis, who's close to 70 goals in the OHL, and some of these guys will certainly need some time in Rockford in the AHL. But the Blackhawks have more of those younger guys on the way, and certainly if they could, it depends on who hits the market, but if they can find someone who can be that top tier player, they have the money to go and get them, and certainly probably the motivation to kind of move this rebuild along a little bit.
Jimmy, were you telling Scott what we had talked about this morning?
I know, he's well prepared.
Yeah, you're well prepared. That's what we were talking about. There are far more assets there than people are aware of, especially NCAA players. There's some real good assets. Renzel's one of them, obviously. Tremendous talent, big defenseman out of the University of Minnesota. We're talking about all these different players. Ryan Donato's maybe one of the most goal-scoring players in the National Hockey League. She's got 23 goals, which is amazing. What's going to happen with him?
I think the Blackhawks are trying to figure that out right now. I think there's value on this team, and they certainly want this group to end positively, and I think they want to give Anders Sorensen a chance to still win this job. Time's running out, but I think they'd like, the fact that Donato's played a lot with Bedard, I think that helps his case, and certainly what he's done a lot. Majority of goals have come on 5-on-5, so I think there's a lot of value on the team. But if they can pull a first round pick and just listening to the insiders, it seems like it could be trending that way. And certainly, the fact that Nato keeps on scoring, he's sort of the hot name right now. And it doesn't sound like the Blackhawks are going to re-sign him. The Blackhawks would probably want him for a couple of years at most. And, this is Donato's chance to probably get paid, and who's a guy who's had 5 or 6 NHL contracts and nothing more than ever 2 years. So, he's probably eager to hit the market and see what he can get to. So, I don't know how much interest he'd be in signing a short-term deal with the Hawks, but I think he's really intriguing. Like he's been so consistent this season, and certainly having a career year and a contract year. So, and he hasn't been this type of player in the past. So it sort of gives you pause probably for beyond the season. But right now, like he plays up and down the lineup. He's played with Bedard. He's played in the third and fourth line. He's played on the wing. He's played at center. He's a versatile player. And, if you're a cup contending team, you look at him and see someone you can plug in a third or fourth line. He's probably going to score you an important goal somewhere in the playoffs. He's just, he brings it to you every night. He brings that energy, and he plays hard, and he likes to shoot, and he's aggressive, and all those different things where, I think there's value in it. Am I going to give him a first round pick? I don't know. I guess it depends on where you stand. Probably not. But if the Blackhawks can get that, certainly I think they pounce on it. But he's definitely intriguing, and certainly doing it at the right time of the year where he continues to score goals and play pretty well.
Jimmy, what's a cool story on Ryan Donato? Last year, I'm going to say right at the end of June, he went to Tampa, and he did a skating class in Tampa with some Russian skaters. Oh, wow. And it totally changed his acceleration with and without the puck. And it's improved pretty substantially. And I think that's this is a good lesson for a lot of players and a lot of evaluators of talent. That guy always had talent. It's just he was a little bit heavy with his feet. His feet are not as heavy anymore, and he's getting to those opportunities that Scott was talking about, and it's made a difference. But he did go down to Tampa and do that skating stuff, and it really worked for him.
Yeah, and he mentioned, I had talked to him recently about why he thinks that this is not just a fluke, and he mentioned the skating that he took, and he feels like it's allowing him to get in those dangerous areas more often and putting him in positions. And he certainly believes that he's this player from the rest of his career. And like Pierre says, he credits a lot of the work that he put in with the skating coaches this past offseason.
Scott, before we let you go, I just want to get sort of your take on the temperature of that fan base right there. They went through, a dynasty. They got so used to winning cups, and now they're in a rebuild. How has the patience been? Is it wearing thin? Is it getting better? What's your take on the fans' response right now?
Yeah, I think it's pretty impatient. I think it's not just the Kyle Davidson 3 or 4 years here. It's going back to, they haven't won a playoff series since the Cup in 15, haven't been in the playoffs since 2017. I guess if you want to count the bubble, they made that as one of those weird odd 10 seeds or something like that. But it's been a long time that they've made the playoffs and won a playoff series. So as much as Kyle Davidson, he came in with a new rebuild plan, it's felt like a decade or so for the Blackhawks fans. So I think there's definitely some impatience there. It's weird. It's small things that sometimes excite a fan base. But bringing in Spencer Knight and bringing in someone that they can feel and see and not have to be told that, the prospects are coming. Like the Blackhawks fans last night seeing Spencer Knight and certainly had a memorable debut with 41 saves. That'll excite anyone. But I think what the Blackhawks were able to do in Seth Jones trade, it excited the fan base and made them a little bit more optimistic. Where Seth Jones has always kind of been a punching bag just because of his contract, and people have kind of associated him with I guess the contract and just the Blackhawks kind of continue to rebuild. So probably unfair to him. But the fact that Davidson was able to move him and also get assets in return, it seems like there's a little bit more trust in Davidson, and people are sort of intrigued how this offseason comes, where you may have a coaching change, you have all this cap space, you have these assets. What does he do? And I think that it's a fan base that's eager for this rebuild to at least move a little bit forward. I don't think anyone expects a cup contender in next year, but the expectation this season was and also be among the worst teams, and so that's it's been tough for the fan base to kind of swallow again another season of this type of magnitude.
Good stuff, my friend. Well, thanks for joining us here.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks a lot. Good job, Scott.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Scott Powers joining us here from The Athletic on the eye test on the Sick Podcast Network. Pierre, I did not give him any cliff notes, I swear, but that was good. We'll take it.
That was what we had talked about probably 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
That was good. He was on it. Rinzel's a really good prospect. He's legit. Yep. Watched him a long time. He's. I would be shocked if he's not out at the end of this year. I'm not trying to scare the people of Minnesota, but he's. I got to believe he's leaving. So
he mentioned another friendship for connection there, Slaggert.
Yeah,
we were with his dad,
with his father
at Notre Dame in Dublin.
Yeah, he's got a brother playing in Rochester. He's got another brother playing at Notre Dame, and he's playing for the Chicago Blackhawks.
You know what? I've watched, some of the Blackhawks games I've watched recently. He stood out to me. He's
a tough kid. He's a grinder. He's good on the boards. Yep. He's really coachable. He grew up in a hockey house, obviously, so he's got tremendous hockey IQ. But what stands out about him is his dogged determination on the puck. He's really hard on the puck all the time.
Yep. Good stuff there. And so I'm just seeing if there's anything else breaking here as we're speaking.
How about last night? We were just talking about Seth Jones. So we're talking about Seth Jones. Tampa Bay last night had 7 power plays against Florida. Yep. Seth Jones was on the ice for 5 minutes of penalty kill, almost 5 minutes. And they were a perfect 7 for 7 on the penalty kill. Florida Panthers were last night. Paul Maurice was like, wow, it's pretty amazing the guy can do this. I'm like, no, it's not. That's how he plays. Yeah. And Paul was being complimentary. He wasn't trying to be rude to the player. He says, wow, his hands were much better, and it's just this was a great pickup for them, Florida, because of the loss of Ekman Larson and Brandon Montour. Pretty good to overcome those two. And it's a good move for Spencer Knight. Yeah. It's a great opportunity for Spencer Knight in Chicago. He was good last night. He had 41 saves. Scott wasn't kidding around. He did. He had 41 saves. And a lot of those early in the game, a lot of those were real good. They were real good saves.
Yeah, it could be one of those deals that works out great for both sides, which is we love to see. One little tidbit here too, Pierre. This is a guy I've always been trying to figure out, can he ever get it to the next level? And the Panthers re-up with Jesper Boquist on a 2-year, $3 million deal. Now I know he's a depth player.
Yeah,
but I think that's a pretty good deal right there. I always liked him. I love his speed. I'll tell you that. He's a good depth player.
Yeah, no, that's good. You're spot on that. That's a good deal for him. Gives him an opportunity to play in a good situation. Remember, it's a tax-free state too. So that's another thing. I think Chicago would like to try to keep Ryan Donato, but I think that if he goes to market, he'll get more than a 2-year deal somewhere.
Right. I think Scott made a good point where he's probably looking at man, I've been on enough of these 1 to 2 year deals. This is my chance. Yeah. I could go somewhere. So I would lean towards he gets traded. You never know though. Maybe he loves it there. Who knows? Maybe he wants to be part of it. So we'll see.
I mean, where he could fit really well. Where do you think? You're going to laugh at me when I tell you.
I was thinking Florida, actually, but
I'm thinking Florida or Tampa.
Oh,
one of those 2 places.
Yeah, I was thinking Florida.
Another place where he fits because of all the injuries is Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
But I think Florida or Tampa are 2 good fits.
Dallas is very quiet right now, Pierre. I'm hearing tons of things. I don't hear anything about them right now, which makes me think Jimmy Neal's up to something because that's just the way he does business. He's not going to let it get out there.
Detroit. That's a Detroit way forever.
Yep.
Don't air out your business.
Yeah.
Just get it done. You don't have to tell anybody. Just go do it.
Like the Canadians just did with Jake Evans. There you go. The one thing I want to go back quickly before we go to our sponsors and then my pick and then the Q&A, Pierre, just your take on what went wrong for Trent Frederic in Boston, because when they drafted him and when he first came in, to me, he just had Bruin written all over him, the big bad Bruin type. He's rough. He could maybe potentially pot you 15 to 20 a year. I just don't understand where it went wrong.
What does that mean?
Money? $3 million? Oh,
three coaches.
3 coaches.
3 different coaches.
Great point.
Cassidy, Montgomery.
Yep.
Sacco.
Yep. That's hard for development.
All different ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
So the kid was drafted for one thing.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden somebody wanted something else, and then somebody else wanted something else. And so he's kind of lost.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault.
Yep.
And that's why it's really important for these teams. And, again, I learned this from Scotty. I didn't learn this from nobody. I learned it from the very best guy in the history of the business.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure you always have somebody there to try to help those players. They don't need to have any profile at all in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
They're a sounding board.
Yeah.
So if the coach says, I can't get through to this Frederic guy, the sounding board comes on the road trip. He's not there as an enabler. He's there to help the person, the player.
Yeah.
Let's talk it out. What is it? And it's not the assistant coach. It's not that. It's just somebody removed from the team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how that works.
Yep.
I can tell you this. I wish Badger Bob Johnson was still alive. Scotty's influence on the 1991 Stanley Cup winning team in Pittsburgh was huge. And his job really was director of player personnel. But his value was in big games, in big moments, in big playoff series, he was there to be the sounding board for the coaches or players that were having a hard time understanding what they had to do. Okay. And he was in a perfect position at that point in his career.
Yeah.
He was divorced from the enthusiasm and the energy and the passion of being a coach, which is what he is and always was. But he could do it in a way where it was so cerebral and fun for the players to understand. Yeah. And then a year later, it was completely different.
Yep. Yep. God bless him. Good point by you. Yeah. So hopefully he finds that, whether it's in Edmonton or wherever he ends up in free agency. I hope he finds it, because I think the kid's still got some great potential. I really do.
Oh, he does, for Jimmy, for sure. And you know what? Edmonton, don't get mad at me, but let's just say they choose not to sign him at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. He will be the 3rd Edmonton Oiler player in less than a calendar year to go to St. Louis.
Yeah, that would be interesting, huh?
Holloway, Broberg, Frederic. Oh boy.
Yep.
I don't think, and I could be wrong in this, I don't think there's a direct flight from St. Louis to Edmonton.
Maybe they're going to create one just for the.
I think they might have to start having one.
Good stuff. All right, let's get to our sponsors here. TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And of course, you can always go over to Betway right now and still lose money to gain money if you are a new member. So sign up for a new membership right there with the QR code in front of you. Or if you're not watching, you can go to the website, go to the details section, and you can get up to $200 if your first bet loses. That's right, $200 if your first bet loses. This is only available for new customers. It is not available in Ontario. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus, and please play responsibly. All right, let's go to our sick pick of the night. And Pierre had a little influence on this one. So let's go.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right, I'm looking right now at the Columbus Blue Jackets, folks. Look, this team, like I said yesterday, it's hard not to get excited about what they're doing and the storyline behind them with everything they've gone through. They're going into Tampa tonight, and they're facing a Tampa team, as Pierre pointed out earlier, was beaten by the Florida Panthers last night. They've been waiting there for them. They haven't played since Saturday. They're well rested. They're rolling right now. I like them to at least take it. I don't know if they'll win the game, but I like them to come out flying and harp on a tired Tampa team. Give me the Columbus Blue Jackets puck line in the first period at plus 125. And then the other game, I don't know, Pierre. I don't know. I'm going to look at the, where was it? I had Detroit, okay? I'm liking Detroit Red Wings, Carolina Hurricanes. I'm switching it up here, Pierre, I know. I think Detroit's due. They had a horrible weekend. I don't like the way Carolina's playing right now, and I don't know how Detroit, who's in the thick of a playoff race right now, could be getting a plus 165 money line underdog rating right now. I think that if Carolina is way too heavily favored here, go with the Detroit Red Wings to snap their losing streak at home on home ice. And maybe even look at the over 5.5 because Carolina has not had a lot of good goaltending lately. So give me the Detroit Red Wings money line. Those are my two.
Can I put my hand up before we go anywhere? You're doing one thing that's dangerous.
Yes.
What happened on Saturday night in Columbus, Ohio?
Oh, I think I know where you're going with it.
Teams played in an outdoor game.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, those teams take a little while to come back from playing outdoors.
Especially the team that wins. Emotional letdown. Good point. Good point there.
I just listen to you.
Yep.
I respect you.
Oh,
your
that's
opinions
great.
Are usually very strong. But
yep.
I was wondering if you had thought about the outdoor game.
No, I did not. That's a good point. And I imagine, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I remember looking at it a couple times for the Bruins when they played in their outdoor games. And I think the stats really overall teams coming out of it were not good.
It's really hard for both teams. It is. It's hard.
One that you suggested, and you don't do bets, but you said, Jimmy, I think a team that looks pretty good right now is the Jets going into Long Island right now, ticked off from that loss to the Flyers. The Islanders are kind of, I won't see free fall is too strong a word, but they're not looking too good. They played last night. The Jets have been waiting there. So that might be a better one than those Wings, but great point by you, Pierre.
I was wondering if you had thought about that.
Yeah, and you know what I want to do, just for curiosity's sake, because I do remember looking that up after the last outdoor game the Bruins played. What was it, Fenway, back in 2023? It
would have been Fenway.
Yeah, so that one, I remember kind of studying how do teams react going into and out of outdoor games, and you're exactly
right. There's even one more component to that. This is for the people at home. And this has nothing to do with betting. It has to do with reality in the standings. If it's a really cold venue, if the temperatures it's bitingly cold, it's harder for both teams, but it's really hard for the team that won.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. I don't know.
And that especially was such an emotional night there for them. That's a good point. All right, let's get to this Q&A. What do we got, guys? Shane Bovin. If you're the Hugo, which is Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon. I love that acronym they use there. Do you use your abundance of picks and prospects to go after right-handed center Dylan Cousins, or do you overpay in free agency for a left-handed center like Sam Bennett to fill the 2C position? I like Cousins. I love what Bennett brings, Pierre, but I just think somebody's going to really overpay him on the market.
There's no guarantee you're getting
either.
Yeah, that too, but there's no guarantee you're getting Sam Bennett. You could overpay all you want. You're still paying Canadian taxes and Quebec taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's an Ontario kid. So, if he's coming back to Canada, I don't think he's coming to Montreal. I could be wrong, but I'd be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like that have been spoiled. He's left Calgary and he went to Florida, and he's looking at his paycheck at the end of the day, and he's going, wow, this is really different.
Yeah.
So I don't know about Cousins is a good player.
And
Cousins
you
is
can
a good
get him
player.
for a trade.
But
so
I
he
just
doesn't
here's what bothers me about that deal, and I love the fact that the emailer writes or the texter says Hugo. I think that's such a good name. I'm not sure I'm in love with making a deal in the division with Buffalo with my prospects. I'm just not sure I'm in love with doing that. Not sure I'm in love with that.
Yep. All right. Good point. Next question. Alex Ivanowski. Rangers seem to be turning it around. How nervous should New Jersey be with their current playoff position? They can't score, which surprises me. Alex, I good point on the Rangers. They do seem to be playing better, but also there's other teams I'd be nervous about if I was New Jersey. One of them we just discussed, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I mean, I don't think those 2-3 slots are a lead pipe lock there for New Jersey right now. I think that's anyone's game. So good point by you. That has opened up a lot in the Metro Division.
JT Miller's changed a lot of what's going on in New York, number one. Number two, I think there was a meeting of the minds from upper management to the players that are there to try to get rid of whatever disparity there was between one side and the other. I think they found a way to come together as a group. I think that's gone a long way to fixing this. But JT Miller was huge. I don't know long-term whether that can hold up or not. Here's my biggest fear for New Jersey. If Jack Hughes is out substantially, they're in trouble.
Yeah,
they're in big trouble.
For sure. And I saw one of the New Jersey writers said that after that injury that night, Luke Hughes came into the room a little after the availability had started for the media and was very emotional. Very emotional. I don't,
his brother's an amazing player. I mean, he's had some other upper body injuries before, and you just feel I feel terrible seeing that.
Yeah.
And who felt the worst? Go watch it. Jack Eichel felt the worst there.
Yes.
Like that poor guy.
Yep.
He felt terrible. I don't know what people are writing or saying, Jimmy. You go find that.
No, a
stuff
lot of people did notice that too. I think the only person that unfortunately didn't know it, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have been angry or upset or frustrated, was Sheldon Keefe. I don't think he really saw how bad Jack Eichel felt.
Well, I've been where he stands.
Yeah.
It's an optical illusion. You don't see what actually.
Exactly.
I bet when he saw the tape after, he's like, "Okay,
yeah,
I got it wrong.
Yeah,
I didn't mean it."
Yeah. All right, next question. Ron LaRoe. How many teams in the league have a duo like Hugo? Should more teams be doing this? Sample size? I say yes.
Yeah, no. They tried to do it in Ottawa, and then my owner passed away.
Yep.
So no, it matters. I think you need to do that. Actually, I think it's really smart. I think the Rangers eventually are going to have to look at a different way of setting it up.
Yep.
But I think it's really important. It's too big a job for one person. It's way too big a job for one person.
Does Billy Guerin draws on Ray Sherrill pretty?
And don't forget Mike Madonna's there too.
And Mike Madonna.
So there's a lot. But look at Jimmy Rutherford. Jimmy Rutherford's out in Vancouver, and he's got Patrick Alvin.
Yeah.
So you can go around. Luke Robitaille's in LA with Rob Blake. There's a lot of
McFarland.
Sakic's there, and McFarland in Colorado. So here's one thing: it's unsolicited. I coached both players. If I were Anaheim, Pat Verbeek's done a really good job there. That thing is way fixed. I know it doesn't show in the standings yet, but it's going. And because I know you're friends with the coach.
Yep.
And it is going. That thing's going. I would hire Chris Pronger.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Just telling you.
Yep.
I'm just telling you. Pronger would be a perfect fit there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not taking anything away from Verbeek. I'm just telling you right now, if Verbeek wasn't doing a good job, I'd tell you too. Yep. He's done a really good job there. But Pronger would help him.
Yeah.
And that's just another, again, Dougie Wade is out in San Jose with Mike Greer.
Yeah. It can't hurt.
So you look at that. Billy Zito has done a magnificent job in Florida. You would agree?
Yes.
Go look at the support staff. Go look at it. Mm-hmm. They've got all former general managers, former head coaches in the league, really honorable, hardworking, maybe tough guys too, but tough hockey people.
Yeah.
They've figured it out.
Yeah.
And it's important to have that. Really important.
All right. Next question. Alex Simnowski, I say this with most respect for Lou. Does he get that the Islanders as a whole need to rebuild or at least, retool? It feels like the core group has run its course. I think he does. It's tough. It's, like, what do they retool with? I guess would be my question on that.
Well, their best prospect is probably playing at Notre Dame right now.
Mm-hmm.
Good player. One of their other top prospects playing in Bridgeport, Alex Jeffries. They've got some guys that are good players, but there's some work that has to go in there. This is a hard conversation to have. When you have somebody that's had a career, I heard something last night really bothered me. Somebody was talking about the Leafs, in San Jose last night, and then the Islanders obviously lost to the Rangers, and they said, well, I wonder if this is the end for Lou Lamoriello. It's almost like a throwaway line.
Yeah.
The guy's career has been unbelievable.
Yeah.
At some point, there has to be some level of decorum to respect what somebody's done over the course of their career. I get it. Like, people want to rip on guys. I totally get it. I understand how the game's played. But at some point, there has to be some level of decorum.
No, I agree. And by the way, Alex, we're not looking at you. You asked a very valid question.
No. This
You
is
asked
nothing
it
to do with Alex.
utmost respect.
No.
But yeah, there are people out there who have been taking some pot shots at him, it's not cool. I mean, let's respect what he's done for the game. Not just at the NHL level, at the college level too.
Oh, everywhere. Prep school, college, you name it.
All right, next question. Randy Workman. Could Tampa be up to something putting Cam Atkinson and Logan Brown on waivers today? Good catch, Randy.
Yeah, but they're not making big money. Atkins is at 900. I think Logan's at 750. So it's a good catch.
Yep.
And Tampa always tries to do something at the deadline anyways, but it's not blow you away kind of money. It's just not that kind of money.
But I do think they are up to something. I think they do something. They've been one of the better.
Hey, look Jack Michaels nailed it.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
I know they lost last night.
Yeah, but they still kept the
score.
score.
That's because of the goalie. That's because the power play went 0 for 7.
Exactly.
It had nothing to do with the goalie there. The power play went 0 for 7. One of the best power plays in the league.
They're a team to be reckoned with for sure. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski again. If you were Buffalo, would you trade Peterka or Cousins? I keep hearing their names. I personally say no. I agree with you, Alex. I think you look to trade others and stay the course. Trade your newer prospects and picks.
I don't know why I keep hearing Peterka's name.
Me neither.
I watched him in Montreal last night. He played with energy. I know he took a bad penalty, but everybody takes bad penalties. And Cousins, he fought the other night. I don't know what that was all about with Cuck and the Emmy, but they went after one another.
They're trying to do the nations thing.
Maybe.
How'd that turn out for some of those guys?
Anyways, all I'm going to say is I don't know what the rush is to trade prospects out of, or young players out of Buffalo. And if they do, maybe they know more than we do. Yeah, we'll find that out. You can't prejudge it.
Yeah,
you definitely cannot prejudge it.
Yeah. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski again. How much does business and the fear of low attendance stop certain teams around the league from committing to full rebuilds? I feel like it's not talked about enough. Great point by you, Alex. Very, very true. And Pierre would be able to.
We agree, Alex.
We talk about this a lot, actually, off the air.
We do. It's a great job by you, Alex. We agree.
Yeah, I mean, and Alex, that was kind of, I didn't say it in those words, but that was what was going through my head when I asked Scott, what's the climate like there amongst the team and the fans? Because, that's a team that was used to making a lot of money and selling out every game for a long time. And
oh boy,
but if you think about what happened before that, in the dark ages they had there, they don't want to go back to that. So,
Jimmy, I coached a game in that building, in the new building. Okay, when I was in Ottawa, we weren't very good. We were just starting to rebuild. Eddie Belfour was still a goalie there, and we beat them in Chicago.
Yep.
And I'm going to say there might have been 8,000 people in the building. Yeah. I'm telling you.
There was some bad times there. Was that when it was?
I had coached in the old building. I had coached in the Stanley Cup final in 1992, and here it was like 95, 96, somewhere in there.
Not that far.
There might have been 8,000 people there.
Jesus,
that's unbelievable.
Were they still doing the TV thing, Pierre? Then when they put home games on?
Yeah, that was a bit of an issue too. That Mr. Wirtz passed away, but that was a bit of an issue.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Kathleen, I'm so excited that Jake Evans took a team-friendly deal and will be with the Habs for the next 4 years. Awesome news. What do you think about Armia now? Something similar, maybe? We were just talking about this off the air before we came on, Kathleen. I think it could go either way with him. You know, if somebody is out of their mind and gives him a good offer on the trade market, I don't.
I'll be surprised if the Canadiens re-sign him.
Yeah. Like maybe he's just, like I said to Pierre off the air, maybe he just becomes a self-rental, you know.
But
I just don't know.
Like, he's going to get a job somewhere, but I just don't know, like, with what they have coming.
Exactly.
And where guys are going to slide down on the roster. I just don't, I don't know. I don't know how he's valued long-term by them.
Right.
Short-term, I see the value. Long-term, I just don't know.
It's not a knock on him. It's just where the team's going. All right, next question. Dave Laws, due to the political situations, there's a lot of emotion right now. Does that spill onto the ice, and are players professional enough to brush it aside? Dave, I would hope so, considering a lot of them are American Canadians, so and Russians. I mean, I think the players do a great job of blocking that out and remaining teammates, but I'm not in a dressing room. I can't speak to that, but I would think that that's not an issue right now.
Guys don't check other guys' passports anymore. Maybe back in the day that was something, but that doesn't work anymore.
I think it's more in the stands and more in the news than it would be.
I would agree with Jimmy on that. Yeah. I would agree. I think there's other stuff that happens, but it has nothing to do with where you're from.
No.
It has to do with how you play. It has to do with how big a mouth you might have. Yeah, like there's different things.
Do you buy in to what the
team there's different things, but I don't think it matters where you're from.
All right. Next question. Brandon Parker. Question. Pierre has spoke for years about Montreal needing an identity and a strong culture. Is this deal somewhat of a testament to that now? I think it's clear they want to play for Marty as well. Yeah, Brandon, I don't know if you're here earlier, but Pierre and I did discuss that. You're absolutely right.
Brandon, way to go. Thank you so much for the note, by the way. We really appreciate that. And there's structure now. There's organizational standards. It used to frustrate the heck out of me watching what was going on because I knew those standards weren't being lived up to, and it was breaking my heart to watch it. But Marty came in, and you got to remember who influenced Marty. Mm-hmm. Marty's a big influence on Marty's career is John Tortorella.
Yep.
And so it says a lot to me. And I think Marty understands a little bit more than John because Marty had 3 boys that went through youth hockey. And two of them are playing college and one's, just about to commit to a college. So you learn as a dad and you learn as a hockey professional. So he's got a little bit of John Tortorella in him, but he also learned some other things too. And I think Trevor Letowski does a good job on the bench for them. I think Stefan Robida does a good job on the bench for them. So I think there's some good stuff going on there.
For sure. By the way, A to Z, me and Randy Workman notifying us, Pierre, that Vanacek in San Jose is being held out for trade purposes. So we'll see where that goes. Maybe another goalie.
Well, Gorgiev was really good last night against Toronto. Mm-hmm. Holy moly. Yeah. Really good. Really good.
We'll see what happens with that. All right, next question. Chad Laylaw, what is the future in Chicago for Lucas Reichel?
Look at Jack Edwards right in that picture. Looking good.
Well, hey, Jack, if you're watching, I hope you're great, by the way, Jack Edwards.
Yeah. Lucas is right now 4th-line center for them. Doesn't mean that's where he'll be forever. He's got to work his way into playing up in the lineup. I know there's a lot of hope for him.
All right. Next question. Paul Cormier. Hi, guys. Happy about the deal to sign Evans for 4 years. Do you think that Hughes can make a splash and try to get a second-line center at the deadline? I remember on your show that Gorton mentioned the guys deserve some help. I'm a big fan of both of you guys. Paul, I think you never know. Anything can happen. I have a feeling, like I said earlier, it's more complementary or more depth guys to surround. I think like that type of deal make it pushed to the off season, something at the draft or right after free agency. That's where I see that going. But you never know if the right deal comes along. Who knows? You got to take it. So
they're not that many guys that are ready to trade centerman right now. It's hard. The center Scott Lawton is one of the names that's out there. Jake Evans was another. He's obviously off the market. Scott Lawton's a good player. He's a leader player too. I know him personally, and I know him as a hockey player. I don't think they're in a rush to trade him, but I think they also know that he's on a very friendly deal. He's got another year left at $3 million a year. You know, he was on a 5-year deal. It was a good deal for him, good deal for the team. I don't know if he's a legit 2. I think he's more of a 3, if that makes sense to you. I see him as a 3, not a 2.
I know another fashionable name, but he's made it pretty clear he doesn't want to leave. There were some whispers last week. He might be changing. Is it Ryan O'Reilly? But he's in the lineup tonight.
I don't think he's leaving.
Yeah, I don't think he's moving. If that happens, I think that's an off-season thing.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I'd be surprised.
So, all right, next question. Theo Perring. Should the Canadiens try and trade for Braden Shen? 3 years at $6 million. If you can get him,
I would, 100%. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I definitely would try to get Braden Shen.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, why is I don't think they are, but why are these reports that St. Louis is in such a rush to move this guy? I mean,
he's older. Their prospect pool is not overly deep.
Yeah,
and they've got some guys that played in the World Junior that they're excited about. But they're, you know, if you look from 2019 to now, there hasn't been this exponential growth in St. Louis Blues hockey. Yeah. And part of it is a lot of the best kids that grew up in St. Louis, they're playing in Florida, they're playing in Arizona or Utah now, they're playing in Ottawa. You know, they're playing ones in Edmonton now. They're playing in Joseph Wall's playing in Toronto. Like all these guys are playing in different places. So that's part of it too.
Yep. All right. Let's see. What do we got? Next question. Posting it on 130. General question. No names. What kind of former player makes good players coach or GM?
I'm very comfortable saying names. Jacques Lemaire. Jacques Lemaire was an amazingly brilliant student of the game. He ran some of the best practices I ever saw, and I had to coach against him. It was about body positioning, stick positioning, how to take face-offs, how to line your feet up, board play. I mean, so much. So Jacques was an industrious, skillful player. He really was. He was an amazingly industrious and smart player. Was he the best player in the Canadiens? No, not even close. But he knew what he had to do to play with those better players. I think those are the guys that make good coaches. I think the guys that had to work the hardest and study the most become better coaches, and the star players that could just drop the puck and play.
Yep. I agree with you totally on that. All right, next question. Randy Workman, is there a market for Mrazek? Randy, I feel like there's always a market for backups, right? For backup goalies. Somebody's going to need him. Injuries happen. You know, he's a depth guy. I don't know what they get, but yeah, I think the
problem on him, Jimmy, I could be wrong, but I think the fact he's got another year left on his contract after this. Check it out. And I think that's one of the things that is hesitating for people. I think he's got another year left.
You are correct, Pierre. He's only in year 1 of 2.
Yeah, so that's
he hefty cap hit too, 4.2.
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know how digestible.
Pull that back, Randy Mulligan. Sorry.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No. Hey, look there's 750 players playing in the league. You can't know everybody's contract status. I'm sorry, not off the cuff.
But that is a huge factor.
That's a big factor in this. Yep. It is.
Maybe next year at this time because his contract's expiring. We'll see. All right. Next question. Ron LaRoque. Last night they showed Lindy Ruff a few times. He looked worn out. Yeah, that was tough to see. I know he knew what he was getting into, but did he really?
I think he did. No, I think he did.
I think he did. I think he did.
Ron, I can't say too much because I don't want to give up sources, and I never use that term, but I got a few. And he, at the beginning of training camp, he went to the front office and said, look, I know what the team has to be. We're not taking 50 guys over to Europe. We're going to cut our roster now. The guys I don't think are going to play here, they're going to Rochester. I want to coach this team up right away so we're not wasting time with guys that may or may not be here. I think he knew exactly what he was getting into. And for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out as well as I thought it would, or he thought it would, or maybe ownership thought it would.
All right, next question. Enter tap. No guarantee Frederic will be healthy enough to play before the playoffs. That is correct. Enter tap. Good point by you. But Edmonton can still put him on LTIR and still have cap space to bring in other key pieces. Thoughts, Pierre and Jimmy? And just to throw into that, also Evander Kane, I believe, is still there.
We've talked about Evander.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't know.
I don't know what they're going to do. They baffle me. I honestly, I apologize, but I don't have an answer for you on that because to me, Edmonton's one of the most confusing teams.
Just so Intertap understands, this is important too. Everybody throws out that term LTIR. There's 2 clauses to LTIR that people need to pay attention to. And I explained this to Jimmy yesterday. One is you got to miss 10 games. The other part is you got to miss 24 days.
Yep.
You got to understand that for a player like Frederic, who I think they're bringing in to help them.
So let me go back. I'm just looking up, just to give you an example, guys, of what Pierre is talking about. Frederic's last game was February 25th in the loss to Toronto. So that would have been a week ago tonight. So there's 7 days. And then how many games they play between Thursday, Saturday, Sunday? 3 games. So 7 days and 3 games he's at right now. So that's where he's at. So just to give you an example.
Just to show you, like, I get that people throw that out there, and it's a very good formula. Like, Florida knows they had no choice. Kachuk's hurt. Like, they have no choice. Yeah. But you got to understand when you do that, what you're doing. It's a lot more draconian than people think.
Yeah. Just seeing a message here from Jason Logan, our good friend in Montreal. Yep. Pierre, his dad is not doing well in the hospital right now. Well, Jason, we send our best out to you. We're thinking of you.
We're thinking of you 100%. What a nice man. What a nice man.
All right. Next question. Ethan Russell, do you like the Frederic trade? I know you guys already talked about it. I think we all know he's going to the Blues in free agency. That is kind of our gut feeling here. Smart move by Sweeney. They just need help with drafting. I don't know what to think of the move, Ethan. I think the failure to let it get to this point is what bothers me. The move, I got to kind of sit back and really evaluate it. But the failure to get to this point where you're trying to trade him, I just felt like they had been a perfect match. And as Pierre pointed out, though, in terms of development, it's hard to do when you have 3 different coaches. The kid's only been here for 4 or 5 years. So.
Yeah, like that's one of the issues.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. All right, next question. Sound the siren. Guys, what's up? Guys, if Rantanen does not resign with the Canes, is there anything the organization needs to inwardly look at? It's a good question.
You want to answer it or you want me to?
No, you can take it, Pierre.
Well, maybe they need to find out their sources, because you don't make a deal like that unless somebody tells you, you know what, you guys get him, he's going to sign with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like how you do your business internally, you got to figure out what went wrong on this. Why couldn't we sign? Now, maybe they don't want to, I don't know. Maybe they don't want to sign him. Hasn't gone glowingly for him and the team since he's been there. I don't know. This, I said it at the beginning of the year, Jimmy. I'm going to say it again. It's not a knock on anybody there. This year is a total referendum in Carolina on analytics.
Yep.
That's all it is. If they win, Jimmy and I will be the first person to say it worked.
Right.
If they don't win.
Yeah. You keep knocking on the door like that and you're not getting through. You have to take a step back and reevaluate. We'll see what happens. All right. Next question. Ethan Russell, do you think Donato will get traded? If I'm going to give you a percent, I'm going to say 60-40 is my opinion right now that he does get moved.
I like that. I like those numbers.
Okay. All right. Next question. Postnet on 130. What is the mood in Buffalo after losing back-to-back to the Habs? How does management options going forward to turn this team around for next year? Do they get more vets with winning experience? It can never hurt. The more cup rings in the locker room, the better, as Pierre always tells me.
Yeah, I'll go one step further. If they don't make any moves at the deadline, I have to wonder if ownership said enough. Mm-hmm. We're gonna measure this out and see where we are at the end of the year.
Yep, and then make some moves.
Yeah. So there's always different things to watch for at the deadline. That'd be one of the things I'd be watching coming out of Buffalo is, were they able to do a deal, or were they told no deals?
Pull back.
Just pull back.
Yep. All right. Next question. Ethan Russell, what GM is on the hot seat if they don't make the wild card in the East? Oh, I think there's a few.
I'm not going to revel in that
I'm
because
not gonna.
I don't like that stuff. But
I think
there'll be a few on both sides of the ledger.
Yep, I think there's a few. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, do you think a lot of teams have learned from the Blackhawks and why it's not a good idea to strip it all down?
But, Ethan, to be fair to the Blackhawks, those guys had an amazing run. They were getting older.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I learned from the late Bill Torrey, I'll never forget it. I talked to him about potentially going to work in Florida. And I asked him, I said, any regrets that you may have had when you were running your dynasty teams with the Islanders? He says, just one, but I don't really regret it. He goes, we were extremely loyal to all of the guys that helped us win the cup because we cared so much about them. They were family. We really loved those guys. That's exactly what he said to me. And he said, but it cost us. It was a huge toll that we had to pay. It cost us. And it did. It set them back a decade.
Yeah.
So, you got to wonder about that stuff. That's all.
I think that, like we've said, everything goes in cycles. Like I look at it this way, Pierre. If you're in a situation where you did win a lot of cups over that span, like Chicago did or the Islanders or whatever, then okay, yeah, you got to eventually you have to strip it down. Yeah. But if you haven't won a lot in that span, I don't think you rebuild because I just don't think it's fair to that fan base because they haven't been rewarded for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I was there in 2016 when they played Nashville in the playoffs. They got smoked. They didn't just lose. They got smoked.
Yeah.
And, they can talk about, we went to the pod and we beat Edmonton in the pod. The pod doesn't count.
Yeah.
Okay, I was there doing those games too. Mm-hmm. They were a beaten down team. They were totally beaten down. They haven't won a playoff series since 2015. They can say whatever they want about the pod stuff. That doesn't count. They haven't won a playoff series since 2015. And they're not making the playoffs this year.
No, they're not. Who knows about next year? All right, next question. What do we got? Ethan Russell, is there a market for Andrew Peak, defenseman on the Bruins?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good depth guy, physical. Yeah. Why not? For sure, Ethan. All right, next question. Posting it on 130. What did you think of the fight? Oh, yeah, that's right. Good. Thanks for bringing that up. Posting it on 130 between Brady Tkachuk, Tom Wilson last night. Brady coming off an injury, but sticking up for Claude Giroux. Good point there, posting that. What I thought was Tom Wilson saying, this is what would have happened if I was on that team, buddy.
Yeah, Brady handled himself well, though.
He did, though. That was a good fight. That was a good bout.
You know what? Josh Anderson did a number on Tommy Wilson when Montreal was down there. And if any of Tommy's friends are watching this, just so you know, Tommy knows what I think of him. We've had some really good visits over the course of his career. And so I'm not saying anything besmirching his character as a player or as a tough guy. But Josh Anderson did a good job with him. And I thought Brady did a good job with him last night. But what I would say is that was a dress rehearsal for the Olympics. Even though you can't fight at the Olympics, Tommy Wilson saying to Team Canada, see what I did? That wouldn't have happened on Saturday night in Montreal.
Exactly.
Just so you guys know.
That's exactly what I thought. All right, next question. Posting it on 130 again. He spent tonight, stole the game last night against the Kings. Is he a number one? Is it too early to say he's a number one there?
No, but I think he's a number one. I always have. I saw him play for Mid-Fairfield back in the day, and I always thought he was a number one. He played in the same team with Trevor Zegras. They were both first-round picks. Both those kids went to the Quebec Pee Wee tournament on the same team. They played in the Brick tournament on the same team. I think I always thought he was a number one. He has to work through some stuff like a lot of other people. He's fine, but I always thought he was a number one.
All right, next question. Hockey Puck, hey, gents, can the Habs get a trade to help push for the playoffs?
Yes. Yeah, they can.
I think they're going to try for sure.
They are going to try.
All right, next question. Ron LaRoque. Pierre, did you happen to rewatch? So I told Pierre about this. Rewatch Tony's show from last night. Max had a picture of you and was holding it up most of the night.
I love those guys. They're great teammates. So just so everybody knows the backstory, and I don't know if they said it or not, but I was committed to another show last night, and it involved the Toronto Maple Leafs. and the Toronto Maple Leafs chose to give up a 2-goal lead into the third period. Then they chose not to score in a power play in overtime. Then they chose to lose in the shootout. So by the time they were done, I was supposed to be on the show with Tony and Max, but I had already committed to this show in Toronto, so I couldn't be with them. But I will make it up to them, and I appreciate Max's humor. He's a good teammate. I like Maxie a lot.
Good stuff. All right, next question. Morant, what determines whether a team will sell or buy coming trade deadline?
Well, whether you have a legitimate chance to be in the playoffs, whether you think you have a legitimate chance to win, or you've already been given the blessing by your owner to go out and start the rebuild and try to make your team better right away. So there's a bunch of different things that go into that.
Yep. And I think it's getting harder and harder when you're having all these teams in a logjam. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, who's taking the last wild card in the West, Flames, Canucks, Blues, or Utah Hockey Club? I'm going with the Flames.
Wow. I'm going to take Vancouver. Because if I don't,
much better pick.
Because if I don't,
yeah, Rick Tockett's going to be calling you up.
He'll only be calling me.
Yeah.
He knows where I live.
Yeah,
he's going to go to my front door.
I hear you.
So, Coach, right. I'm not betting against you. All right, how's that?
Next question.
I think we're done.
Is that it? We are done. Thank you, everybody, for all that. Great questions today. Good stuff. And
our people are amazing. We're so grateful for all of them.
Appreciate it. Thanks to Scott Powers of the Athletic coming on to talk about the Blackhawks. Yep. Thanks to Shane working the boards up in Montreal. And thanks to everybody who listens.
What are we doing on Friday? Can you tell all our listeners?
Right there. We are going to be live noon to 1, not at our normal time, 4 o'clock. Noon to 1, which will be right in the heat of the deadline. That's usually when a lot of stuff's breaking. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. So remember, noon to 1 here live, and then of course you can catch it afterwards anywhere on the platform.
That's my fault though. Jimmy's being a good trooper. He's not exposing me to your wrath. I'm doing the ECAC women's hockey tournament, and they're down to their 4 teams. It's at Liner Rink in Ithaca, New York. So if you're there and you see me, please come by and say hello. Looking forward to it. It's something that never gets old, and I'm grateful to Commissioner Christensen and the ECAC for having me do it again.
All right, here we go. And Randy, I will message you. He's saying, did we see the report for the Sharks? I have not, but I will find it, or you can send it to me in DM, Randy. All right.
What's the report, Jimmy?
I don't know. Well, let's see. Let's see if we see anything on here. Randy, you can tell us.
Don't tease everybody and then shut the door.
Nothing from them yet, Randy. You want to point me in the right direction here? I don't see anything on Sharks right now.
Well, they're playing in Buffalo tonight.
Yep. Just same thing. I think that the latest I can see anywhere is just that they're holding Vanacek out. So.
Oh, okay.
Yep. All right. And if that's not the case, Randy, give me a DM and we'll talk about it tomorrow for sure. Until then, he's Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.